Actually, I've been to Trump's house. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I was born in Russia, and I was born into a Jewish family. My mother was Jewish. My father, however, was Armenian, and he's Orthodox Christian, but I was never raised with him. I was raised with my mother. Growing up, I went to yeshiva. It's a Hebrew school. It's very well known. There's one called yeshiva, I forgot the name, Beis Yaakov Yeshiva for girls. And I used to speak Hebrew. I used to read and write for about 3 years until I moved to New York.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. How are you doing? We're in Boca Raton, Florida. And as promised, I'm bringing you some special guests here in sunny Florida, no exception. We have former practicing Christian. Mother was a Jew. Mother is a Jew. Father was Christian. You know what? I'm just going to let her explain all this, but it's an amazing story here with Mu'mina, formerly known as Ira, here on TheDeenShow.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I was born in Russia, and I was born into a Jewish family. My mother was Jewish. My father, however, was Armenian, and he's Orthodox Christian, but I was never raised with him. I was raised with my mother. Growing up, I went to yeshiva. It's a Hebrew school. It's very well known. There's one called yeshiva, I forgot the name, Beis Yaakov Yeshiva for girls. And I used to speak Hebrew. I used to read and write for about 3 years until I moved to New York. And then, as you know, they say you don't use it, you lose it. So I lost it. Growing up, I was not very religious. We didn't practice Judaism in our house. We even ate pork. My family, being Russian communists, back in the days in Russia, they didn't really practice any religion. Sometimes they were even atheists, and I used to hear things like, oh, when everything is good, look, there's God, you see, thank God. And when things went bad, it was like, oh, where's God? There's no God. So growing up, I was a bit confused, so I didn't practice any religion at all. I used to just say things like even there's no God and astaghfirullah, and I really didn't believe sometimes that there was a God due to all of these confusing, comments that were made in my family throughout. Later on, I would think to myself, well, how could 90% of people believe in God or in a higher being, and here I am, the small percentage not. And then I used to look at my hands, and I used to look at myself, and I used to say, no, someone had to create me. Like, I didn't just create myself. And even this was at the age of 10, 11, 12, and I said, there has to be a God. But I went on in ignorance, just, doing however I want and following nothing. When I went to pharmacy school back in New York, in LIU, on the last year, we had some students that were Muslim. And there was a boy, and I didn't really know much about Islam except that what they said on TV, that Muslims are terrorists. So there was a guy in school, one of my classmates, and Hassam, and he told me, he goes, I have a CD and why you should become Muslim. And it's about a Jewish guy who became Muslim. Were you open-minded and interested in listening to that? And I said, sure. I said, why not? So then he brought me a CD, and he said, you know what, it's not about, I can't find the one with the Jewish guy, this is about a Christian guy. He was an archbishop at the age of 14, and he became Muslim. So he gave me these 2 CDs. And I used to travel from Brooklyn to New Jersey, and for you guys from that area, there's a lot of traffic. So I used to listen to these CDs, and they totally hit the spot for me. Like the things this brother said in the CDs, it was mostly about, being Christian, which I never was really interested in. But the things that he mentioned, he said things like, like you should believe in one God, and everything, that you do after that, you can slowly improve, like eating pork or having a boyfriend and a girlfriend and all the things that, non-Muslims do, that we used to live in our lifestyle, in the society that we were raised. So after about 3 weeks, to me, I would like to describe the way it felt was as if your mother You know, that safety and that goodness that you feel from your mother, that security, that's how I felt about Islam, what this brother was saying about Islam. And I said, you know what, no matter what lifestyle I live now, I have to live this lifestyle. I have to accept this, it's the truth. And I heard it, and I just said the Shahada in the car. He told me on the CD, he said, all you have to do to become Muslim, you know, is say, bear witness that you're a Muslim right here and right now. And I did that in the car. And then, alhamdulillah, you know, ever since then, that was 25 years ago. And ever since then, I've been increasing my knowledge and, you know, trying my best to practice Islam, alhamdulillah, you know, following all the things that, you know, as best as I can. And I have never been happier. Islam only made me a better person. All my family members love me. They just don't like the fact that, you know, I can't hug them and kiss them, my cousins. I tell them, gotta get over that. You hug me and kiss me enough. But other than that, you know, it's alhamdulillah, it's something that I could never thank Allah for. I can never, ever, ever thank Him enough for that.
Now, before you started to implement Islam in your life, before you started to accept Islam, did you go back to the roots of your mother, what she was upon, or you said they weren't really practicing? Did you go to look into, like, maybe there's truth here, or Christianity? Did you try to experiment with other religions?
No, I did not. I'm the type of person, Allah had given us a brain, and when I hear something that's 100% correct, I accept it.
Now, what made you also start to reflect and think about, like, why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Many people, they don't really reflect about this. Was there a point in your life, was there something happening in your life that had you start to really reflect? Like maybe you saw, some people see people dying, you know, old family members, they have like a tragedy happen, and that kind of humbles them. Was there anything unique that you remember that had you start to think about this very important issue?
Actually, just the fact that I didn't believe in one God, and I didn't believe all of these things was bothering me. There was something inside of me that did not feel correct, even though I was expressing it and saying it and living it. And then I just was, you know, sleeping in bed, and I used to just look at myself, and mostly I remember looking at my hands, and I was like, look at like these veins and like all this blood flow, and like, it's just, I was amazed by the fact that I was feeling one thing, you know, and saying and expressing one thing, but it's not the case. Someone had created you. It wasn't anything that happened in my life. It was just a normal, I think, what's inside of us that God put in us, the innateness.
How do you feel now? You said this, you took the Shahada, that was 25 years ago to this day. Did you start to implement? Some people, okay, they, like you said, it's innately built in every human being. When that truth comes, right? There's a lot of man-made religions. They don't make sense, but the religion from the Creator, it's perfect, it makes sense. It goes with what we call the fitra, right? And so you got to give it a shot. And that call to worship the Creator, not the creation, you can't argue with that. It's simple, it makes sense, and the evidence is just overwhelming. I mean, it's just so much there. Someone is sincere and humble, and they look for the truth, they'll find it in Islam. Now, many people, they accept the truth, but now there's some action that needs to be followed. You got to start establishing the prayer, right? For Muslim women, that modest dress code. How was that? Did you, some people implement right away? Did it take some time? Was there some struggles with that?
Actually, in the beginning, the prayer, alhamdulillah, was not a struggle. I started to read the books, and I started to read the, you know, the Fatiha and what I needed to do in order to do the prayer. One of the hardest things in the beginning for me was not to eat those ham sub heroes that we used to have in New York. But alhamdulillah, I switched over to turkey, you know, and then that helped a lot. As far as the hijab, I always knew you had to wear it, but for the first 5 years of my life, I did not wear it. The reason being is I was embarrassed. You know, I was embarrassed of what people thought about me. And then as the years passed by, I always knew that I had to wear it, and I always felt bad that I wasn't. I always made dua, I made supplication to Allah, oh Allah, please don't let me die without putting on the hijab, you know, I just give me the power to do that. And one day I said to myself, you know, I have people coming into my pharmacy that I counsel all the time. They come, you know, exposing their body parts naked and however, and they come in front of me, and you know, and here I am covered up. I said people need to appreciate that, and mostly I need to appreciate that. You know, this is Allah gave us as a protection. And so I said, enough being embarrassed. Other people should be embarrassed to expose themselves, not me to expose myself the way I am. And I just went to work one day, I put on the hijab, and I came in and they're like, who are you? They thought I was a floater pharmacist. And I'm like, it's me. Didn't I always tell you guys you should wear hijab? Because they used to ask me, they used to say, well, how come she's wearing it and you don't wear it? And I don't want to make, the Muslim people look bad just because I'm committing something that's a sin. And it is a sin in Islam. It's black and white. So I used to tell them, you see her? I said, she's doing the right thing. You see me? I said, I'm doing the wrong thing. And I had several people ask me that throughout my pharmacy days when I used to work in New Jersey. And so, alhamdulillah, I put it on and I fought myself all day and in the morning, and it was terrible the way I wore it. But I said, you know what? That's it. I got to do it. And now, of course, I can never take it off. It's like part of me, part of my identity. And that's another thing. People didn't know that I was Muslim. So if you're not dressed properly and you're not, obeying what Allah has, commanded on you for your own good, then people really won't know who you are. And I did not want to be embarrassed of who I am. I'm very proud that I'm Muslim. Alhamdulillah, very, very proud and very passionate about my religion.
Tell us, how do you feel, sister, here practicing Islam in Florida? Trump's not too far from here, is he? Yeah. How do you feel? Do you feel there's some heat now on you? Do you feel like any backlash? How is the climate here towards Muslims in Florida?
Actually, I've been to Trump's house not too long ago. I work with someone who is a member of Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach, and for several years she's been inviting me over and over and over to come to have some meetings over there. And I went over there. They treated me like royalty. I didn't feel comfortable going over there, but he wasn't there. But they took me, the butlers, the staff, the woman that works for me, and we had a very good time. As far as being intimidated or anything like that, no, I'm not. Alhamdulillah, I believe in whatever's going to happen to you, and your destiny was going to happen to you. You just have to do your best, and make a good impression for people. Your behavior should be the best always in front of your outside or inside of your house, and you just have to be a good Muslim and submit yourself to Allah. And then eventually, actually, I think all of the bad exposure, there is good coming out of it, because there's a lot of people that ask me about Islam at work. A lot of people ask me about Islam, and I am able to talk about it in my particular workplace. It's not corporate. My cousin owns the place. We fight all the time. It's in Russian. But he's like, oh, stop spreading this propaganda here. I'm like, I don't know what you meant to do. They're asking me, And so here and there we talk about it, and yeah, it's a lot of good stuff is coming out of this. People are interested and they want to know, and a lot of times they research, they hear the truth, they accept it however they go about it. But there are a lot of people that are becoming Muslims, the number one growing religion, and it will continue to be so, inshallah.
For the common mantra that we hear many times, people will espouse, they'll say that, oh, the Muslim woman, they got her all covered up, she's oppressed, right? What do you say when you hear that? As a Muslim woman who's wearing hijab, practicing Islam?
Well, I can tell you from both ways. From not practicing, being a non-practicing Muslim, I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, Brighton Beach. I used to walk in a two-piece bikini on the beach, practically in my whole young life. And to someone who says that, a Muslim woman is being oppressed because of the way she's dressed, absolutely not. I see it the other way, because the expectations are very high if you're, not Muslim. They're very high. Everyone always wants to look good, expose as much private parts as they can. Their husband walking around, displaying them. No, you are a treasure and a beauty, and you should be covered. And that beauty is not for everyone to see. And that's what I tell all the people, that I work with, that ask me, well, you're so covered, you must be hot. No, I'm not hot. I used to be more hot when I used to be on the beach or on that boardwalk or outside wearing nothing. Yes, then the sun hits your skin and you sweat a lot more. Here, you're covered. And you're not that hot. I love it. I do not feel any kind of, I don't miss anything that I have done before, If I want to go and, in a bathing suit or whatever, I have my backyard that's fully covered, and I could do that. There's nothing, I go to the beach, I go just like this, swimming. It's no problem. It's great. I don't have to worry about people seeing me, seeing my fat, seeing my this, seeing my that. all my imperfections, you know. It's not for anyone to see. It's only for your husband and your family.
Just a couple more questions for the people out there. Also, you know, Islam being the most misunderstood way of life, but as you said, it's the fastest growing way of life in the world. And you just cleared one of the many misconceptions of Muslim women being oppressed. You're a Muslim woman. They've gotten to hear it from you, and we usually often tell people, go speak to the Muslim woman, right? Instead of coming up with these things from the media and from your own mind. And tell us, can you, now that you found purpose, your living purpose, comparing it to when you didn't have Islam to now, how does it feel?
Yes, before Islam, there was no purpose, there was no worship, there was no creator, there was no maker, there was just, you basically worship others and yourself. It feels great that I know that, you know, I have a purpose in this life, and then inshallah, God willing, you know, there's an afterlife for me. An afterlife that no one can imagine, you know, just complete bliss. And this is what I strive for. Before, back in the days, I've always felt empty, did whatever I wanted to do, depressed, and just like doing things wrong to make myself feel better, drinking, and you know, just the whole society, socializing the wrong way, going out with the wrong people, a lot of mistakes. Your intellect is not there when you don't have guidance. It's just, you can't use it very well.
What advice do you have, sincere, genuine advice for anyone who's tuned in, right? They're watching the show, they're watching the Deen Show, they're hearing your story, they like the message of that pure monotheism, connecting with the Creator, not worshiping the creation, you know, doing good deeds, having a blueprint for life. But there's apprehensions. What's my family going to say? You now coming from a background that your mother was Jewish, your father was Christian, right? People are also timid, scared. That courage that they need is not there, but they want to accept, and they're going through many of these apprehensions. What advice do you have for them?
Well, the first advice I have for them is that those people that make you feel might be, you know, intimidated, your family mostly that you love right now so much, they're not going to be here for you once you die. You're going to be all by yourself, and you're going to answer to your maker, your creator, okay? What you have done and how you have lived on this earth. Second thing is, if you maintain once you become Muslim, you are a much better person. You have more patience with your family. Your family will see all of the good things, as many new convert Muslim families do. They even do admit it. You know, they just don't like what they hear because maybe they're ignorant, the media, so on and so forth. My best advice is, if you believe in Allah and you believe that you have one creator, one maker, and you should worship him in the way that he wants to have worship, don't let anything stop you. Make the witness, the Shahada, you know, take your Shahada, and you worry about everything else later on, but everything will fall into place. You just have to maintain the respect. My family, they don't like the fact that I'm Muslim, okay, for several reasons. But do they love me? They love me so much, okay? I'm tough a little bit with them, you know. I tell them, look, I don't, you know, tell you what you have to do. I don't tell you about your religion, the churches you go to. You have to respect. We all have to respect each other, and that's what you have to make your family, your friends understand. I had a lot of friends back in the days that actually, now I'm getting back together in touch with them. Because in the beginning, I became a new Muslim, and I didn't know how to handle it. It's very important to know how to handle relationships when you're a new Muslim. You know, don't be too extreme. Don't say this is haram. Just learn. Ask somebody. Always ask somebody if you don't know the best way to handle it, whether it's an imam, a sister, or someone that you know you can trust and give you good advice.
Sister, thank you so much for joining us here on the Deen Show. Jazakallah khair.
My pleasure. Really good.